Hey guys, Tuna here, back with another video, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a EDH deck tech for one of my favorite EDH decks, and that is Momir Vig. First I'm just going to go over what Momir Vig does. So, Momir Vig is a 2/2 legendary creature, mana cost 3 green blue, and his ability states, whenever you play a green creature spell, you may search your library for a creature card and reveal it. If you do, shuffle your library and put the card on top of it. So that's very good. And then the second ability states, whenever you play a blue creature spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put that card in your hand. So the entire deck is sort of based around a creature theme. So basically, whenever you play a green creature, you could tutor for a creature and put it on top. And then whenever you play a blue creature, you can look at the top card of your library, and if it's a creature, you can put it into your hand. So basically, if you play creatures that are both green and blue, you could sort of stack the triggers so that you can just tutor and put it directly into your hand. So that's sort of what the theme of this deck is kind of going on. So first I'm just going to go over the mana base of the deck. So first we got our basics. We have 12 forests and 8 islands. And that's pretty basic, about 50-50. So now I'll go over the lands that can produce both blue and green mana. So first we have both of the Vivid lands. We have Vivid Grove and Vivid Creek, and they both come into play tapped with charge counters on it, and you can tap it for their colors, and you can remove charge counters to add a color of any color. So it's pretty useful. Next we have Simic Growth Chamber, and this is also a very good land since it could produce both colors of mana. And this is also extremely useful in the deck since you'll see later that I have different creatures and effects that could untap lands. So this could actually produce infinite mana with certain combos in the deck. Next land we have here is Ancient Ziggurat, and this is also extremely good in the deck because our deck is predominantly creatures. So adding 1 mana, but having it only be for creature spells isn't really that much of a drawback, since most of the spells in the deck are creatures, so it's very useful. Then here we have probably one of the best lands in Commander, or EDH, is Command Tower. Add 1 color of any mana of your commander's identity, so that's very useful. And then we have Hinterland Harbor, and this comes into play tapped unless you control a forest or an island, which we do most of the time. And it produces both blue and green mana, which is also very useful. And then we have Yapimaya Coast, which is one of the pain lands, so you could tap it for colorless, or you could tap it for blue or green, but it deals damage to you. So it's also pretty useful. Then last we have an Evolving Wild, so we could crack it and fetch for a land. We don't have Breeding Pool in the deck, so we can't get duels, but this is a good thing to have when you need it sometimes. Okay, so next I'm going to go over the utility lands. So each of these lands are going to have some sort of purpose in the deck besides producing mana. So first we have Dryad Arbor, and Dryad Arbor is very interesting because it's a creature and a land. So you could, it helps with the Momir theme because you can get a free tutor off of it, and you could tutor for it with other things like Green Sun Zenith. So it's pretty useful. Then next we have Halimar Depths, and this thing is also pretty useful since it comes into play tapped, which is not ideal, but when it does, you can look at the top 3 cards of your library and then put them back in any order. So that has lots of synergies since you get to sort of like preordain a little bit. You could just put a creature on top if you want, and then follow it up by playing a blue creature or a blue spell, and then drawing the creature. So that's pretty useful. Then next we have Tranquil Thicket. And this is also pretty useful since late game when you don't need mana, you're just drawing dead cards with drawing lands. You could cycle it and draw a card, which is useful. Then we have its blue counterpart, Lonely Sandbar. And then we have Alchemist Refuge, which is also pretty useful since it allows us to cast 9-line cards, so they had flash. So this really doesn't have too much use, but I mean sometimes you just want to trick your opponent out, just wait a turn and play something when he doesn't expect it, so that's pretty useful. And then we have both of the artifact lands. We have Suit of the Synod and Tree of Tales, and these are pretty much only in the deck because of Trinket Mage. So if you don't know, Trinket Mage is a creature, which I'll go over later, that when it comes into play, you could search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less. So these are technically artifact cards, so you could just tutor for these. So when you have nothing else you want to tutor for and you're sort of stuck, you don't have one color or another, you could play Trinket Mage and get the other color of mana that you need. So it's pretty useful. And then we have Temple of the False God, which is very good in Commander. It allows you to tap for 2 colorless to your mana pool, but you can only activate that if you have 5 or more lands. So this card is pretty much dead the first, 5 turns of the game, but after you do that, it's really useful, and it's especially useful in this deck because, as I said before, I have ways of untapping lands, so this could also help produce infinite mana. Next we have Besiege, who shelters all, and this is pretty useful since it allows us to pay 2 life and add 1 mana to our mana pool. And if we use that mana to cast an instant or a sorcery, that instant or sorcery can't be countered. And although there aren't too many instants or sorceries in this deck, the ones that are in here are essential to the deck's success, so having them be uncounterable is really awesome. And then, lastly, we have Reliquary Tower, and it taps for colorless, and it allows us to have no maximum hand size. And this is also very useful in the deck since there are lots of things that make you draw lots of cards, and you want to keep those cards, you don't want to have to discard down. Okay, and that's the mana base for my Momir Vig deck, and I think I'm going to continue this series with 2 more videos, so stay tuned if you like what you see, and catch you next time. Bye.